All right, good afternoon. Well, let's begin by giving a big round of applause for Trey Martinez Fisher, my state representative. I live in his district. Thank you for the introduction. And you know, well, we can tell Rebecca Forrest that we don't even need 36 or 37 Latino legislators. All we need is Trey Fisher. He'll get the job done in Austin. Bienvenidos a San Antonio. Welcome to San Antonio. Welcome to America's 7th largest city. It's 2nd largest in Texas, the 5th fastest growing city in the United States. I want to take a moment to really thank Sylvia Garcia, Arturo Vargas, all of the NALEO board members, and each and every one of you who are here for coming down to San Antonio today and for the next few days to be part of a very special conference. All of us as elected officials, I know, have a million different things going on, very busy lives, but I believe that this conference is going to be well worth your time, your energy, and your effort. It's an exciting time to be here in this city. We have seen San Antonio grow in the last 30 years from a city of about 700,000 to a city of almost 1.4 million. The city over the last couple of years has been ranked as one of the most recession-resistant cities in the United States. Our unemployment rate right now is at 7.5%, a full point underneath the state of Texas and well underneath the nation. We feel very blessed about San Antonio as a community. More special than that, though, is I think that what defines San Antonio is its fundamental character. This city is the kind of place that, even though it's grown to a city of 1.3 million people, is the kind of place that if you're in a restaurant and you sneeze, 2 or 3 people still say, "Bless you." If you're walking down the street here in the downtown area and you pass someone, they still look you in the eye. I won't name any other cities, but try doing that in some of the other big cities in the United States. There's a sense of connection, a sense of less guardedness than what you find in many other places. And that's because over the centuries, over many generations, folks from different walks of life, different backgrounds, different perspectives and nationalities have come together to create a confluence of culture where people live together well, they work together well, they pursue a common American dream. It is, for San Antonio, also a very proud moment because this city is the perfect place to host NALEO. As Trey mentioned, it's been the birthplace of organizations like MALDAP and Southwest Voter, GI Forum. It was the place of the first Spanish-language radio station in the United States with KCOR, the first Spanish-language TV station, KWEX, one of the first print media, newspapers with La Prensa that still continues strong today. In the present day, San Antonio, the University of Texas at San Antonio is the 2nd largest UT campus and one of the largest number of classes of Hispanics who receive a baccalaureate degree. Our medical school at the Health Science Center graduates more Hispanics, more Latinos than any other public medical school in the United States. And over the generations, this city has seen the rise of icons in the Latino community like Henry V. Gonzalez and Henry Cisneros, the first Latino mayor of a major American city. And still today, that continues on the city council, in our state delegation, on our school boards, and so forth. The story of San Antonio has been one that I know every single person here who's part of NALEO can be very proud of. We also gather, though, at a moment that is crucial for the progress of the Latino community. And I have to tell you that these days, sometimes I feel like I'm at the beginning of a Dickens novel. You all remember the best of times, the worst of times. A few months ago, we were greeted by official census numbers that proclaimed that Latinos had fueled 50% of the growth in the United States over the last decade, not just in places like California, New York, and Texas, but also almost doubling in places like Iowa, Nebraska, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Idaho, and so forth. And here in Texas, contributing to 65% of the state's growth. We see, just because of sheer numbers, more Latinos today receiving their college degrees, becoming doctors, lawyers, accountants, engineers, architects, all of the things that generations past had as the dreams for themselves, but oftentimes, because of the circumstances of their time, were not able to accomplish. We see more than ever in the America of 2011 the fullness of the potential of the United States spreading out in front of the Latino community. And places like San Antonio truly are the new face of the American dream. There was a song in 1977 that was popularized in 1979 by Frank Sinatra, the theme from New York, New York. You guys know that song? It says, you know, if you can make it here or there, you can make it anywhere. In the 20th century, that was the case for places like New York. In the 21st century, that describes better places like Dallas and Austin and San Antonio and Phoenix and Albuquerque and Los Angeles. It is an exciting time for our community. It also, though, is, to be fair, quite a challenging and distressing one. When we gathered last year, we knew of legislation in Arizona, SB 1070, that was aimed at trying to go after folks who largely have tried to make a good and honest, hardworking life in the United States. Since that time, more than 20 other states have taken up legislation similar to that. We've seen in this state of Texas the call for Arizona-type legislation. We have seen in this legislative session easily the most anti-Latino agenda in more than a generation pursued without shame. We have seen the proposition of a voter ID passed by the legislature, a sanctuary cities bill, a redistricting map that does not respect the growth of the Latino community in the state of Texas and doesn't reflect the aspirations of Texas in general. And all of that, I believe, against a backdrop, against a veneer of success in Texas and so much that this state has to offer. Let me explain that. Today, Texas is headquarters to more Fortune 500 companies than any other state in the United States. Today, our unemployment rate in Texas is significantly lower than that in the United States. Today, just about every state in the United States would like to be growing the way that Texas is. And over the last decade, we grew more than any other state, grew by 4.2 million people. But if you've ever had the experience of finding a coin on the ground, one that is shiny on the outside, the side up, picking it up and then turning it over and finding a rusted out bottom, it's what you can't see right now in the state of Texas that is so distressing for the Latino community. Let me give you a few facts. The Texas Education Agency a few months ago reported that over 50% of the children in our Texas public schools are Latino. In the census numbers that were reported, of the 1 million new folks in our state, 18 years or under, fully 95% of those young people were Latino. At the same time, in the Texas legislature, education funding has been gutted by $4 billion, even though the money was there in a rainy day fund to do otherwise. Texas already was 44th in terms of spending per pupil, and our results show that. In the Latino community, our dropout rate is more than a third. The number of uninsured children in our state is nearly 30%, and Texas is ranked 50th, dead last, in the number of uninsured or insured children. We have the highest number of uninsured children, and 748,000 Latinos are uninsured in our state. And so we have in front of us these days something that looks like a pretty picture of low taxes and low regulation, but when you start to look at the future of our state, and particularly the Latino community, it is a completely different picture. And it often goes unsaid. It often goes unanalyzed. As policymakers, though, it is not our job to just complain about reality. It's our job to change it. The future is certainly a cause for concern, but it's not a concern that is completely outside of our control. We have the opportunity, through engaging our constituents, to ensure, for instance, that more of them get to the polls and vote. We must acknowledge as a community that those generations who have worked hard so that we could have the positions that we have, that they did not work hard so we can have a voter turnout rate that is significantly lower than every other group in the United States. We must bear some responsibility for changing that. The fact is that if Latinos in Texas or the United States voted at just the rate of African Americans, that they could make a major difference. We could make a major difference in the policies that come out of places like Texas. We must re-engage the parents in our community to be effective first teachers of their young children, to not rely solely on the school system or others to do the job that we can start off doing as parents, so that they can be good shepherds and put their children on a trajectory to accomplish the American dream. And we can insist that we only support folks who are for making the right investments in the future. Investments in education, investments in higher education, investments in health care, investments in immigration reform, and those things that will truly ensure that those words in our founding documents of folks being created equal and the ability to pursue life, liberty, and happiness come to pass for all Americans. It has been 33 years now since in 1978 Time magazine declared the 1980s were going to be the decade of the Hispanic. 3 decades have passed since then. But I believe that if we're serious in this room, that if we recommit ourselves to doing the hard work that it takes to mobilize our communities, if we work at that harder than ever, then we can help ensure not just that these next 10 years are the decade of the Hispanic, but really that this 21st century America is a century of prominence, of global superiority, of excellence and economic prosperity for the entire nation. Bienvenidos a San Antonio. Thank you.